we have Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste joining us this morning. Good morning, Congressman.
Morning.
Okay, you expressed hope that Engineer Calalo would serve as a state witness. What kind of information are you hoping to uncover here when you believe that he could uncover a lot of and how this whole system works?
In the case of my district, he can share how the contractors were selected and what the defects might be that we can hopefully claim on the contractors. But I think bigger thing that he could uncover for national interest is the system for how DPWH projects are quote-unquote rigged. Because in our private meeting, he explained to me that as a congressman, there is the possibility that one can select a winner for a bid, the bidders will collude, and that's why there's this supposed SOP for the projects reserved for the congressman of the 1st District of Batangas, which I did not accept, but that he can hopefully shed light on, because again, he's not the one benefiting the most from this system. There are others who are benefiting from it more.
You mentioned that you were offered about 3 million pesos from this district engineer. Is it 3%? I mean, is that the standard SOP for congressmen, or it could go higher?
There was a receipt for 3 projects totaling 104 million, of which 3.1 was 3%. And these are 2025 projects that were already awarded. It was actually surprising that there's still a provision for that, even after something's already been awarded. And I think the expectation is that there is that provision for upcoming projects to be awarded, which I heard was 10 to 20% depending on the kind of project. The percentage increases when a project is flood control because it's harder to audit. And one of the things we did on Monday was to get a backhoe to take out from the riverbed of one of the flood control projects in our district, and found that what was supposed to be a 15-meter sheet pile was actually only 4 meters. And this project supposedly incurred approximately billion peso cost. So you can imagine that there's hundreds of millions of pesos of under-delivered materials in these flood control projects.
You know, when I was actually taking a look at these flood control projects, I thought somehow it would help if the public was more knowledgeable or educated on what should be expected from a proper dike, a proper river dredging. Diba? Parang kasi we don't have any idea of what should be. Like for example, yung sheet pile, parang gaano baka taas talaga yun. Would you have any insight as to that? I mean, in your own province and taking a look at what's been happening, the infrastructure projects that have been delivered over the years?
The program of works are kept by DPWH for each project. So I actually would encourage the public to document any deviations of completed projects from the program of works that was paid for and accepted by DPWH engineers. And even many years after a project has been completed and the warranty has elapsed, I think we can still make claims on contractors to correct and complete the projects that were already paid for.
So your office can request the program of works from the district office?
I think any citizen should be able to do so too. And of course, it's just time consuming. This is why this is something that we're focusing on in our district more than the hearings in Congress, because I think it's going to really be beneficial to our district if instead of using our budget to expand and repair old projects, that we can get them expanded or repaired at no cost to government. And as it relates to the 2026 budget, I hope that there's not going to be projects that are repairing or working off of previously built substandard projects, and that hopefully this will also free up more of the 2026 budget for new, more beneficial projects.
I'm very, very curious as to how this came up to you, how Engineer Calalo came up to you and offered the 3 million peso bribe. And what pieces of evidence do you have, to substantiate the accusation against him? Hopefully, it could also help other officials to do the same, to report, no? But usually kasi pag ganito sinasabi natin, ang hirap magkaroon ng ebidensya dahil kaliwaan yan. Usually the conversations are in vague terms, but on your end, from your experience, how did it happen exactly? And how did you keep the trail of evidence?
As a district engineer and representative, the two of us discussed the ongoing and upcoming projects in our district. And in this particular case, he expressed that ang mga contractor ay gustong magpadala ng suporta para sa aking mga programa, referring to the scholarships that I give students in the district. And he said that, of course, I otherwise wouldn't need the money, but that this would anyway be para sa aking mga programa. And the offer then was a percentage on all of the ongoing projects in the district and not the one that was reported as 3.1M. The 3.1M was 3% of 3 projects totaling 104 million, which was accompanied by a receipt of the 3 projects totaling 104 million.
Can you tell us all about the photo that we showed a while ago on our screen, yung table na puro pera? Ano ibig sabihin, may dala siyang cash? Paano yung nangyari yung entrapment operation?
Yes, so that's in our office in Taal, Batangas. And when we were meeting, I had the Taal PNP come to the office and he was holding the bag with those contents in the picture.
So ibig sabihin nakipag-meet ka muna and then that's when you invited the police over. That's why he was already carrying the cash.
Yes, so in our meeting, we were discussing the projects of the district and were told that the contractors are willing to magpadala ng suporta and that there would be subsequent meetings where more projects would be paid their percentage for. And I think thing here is that I think the public expects already that there is a certain SOP on these projects, but that it's very openly discussed by the DPWH officials themselves might be the surprising part. And that this probably wasn't how it was so much before, but perhaps a culture of toleration or impunity that it's reportedly increased in recent years.
Who do you think should be the most responsible? I mean, taking a look at the whole equation here, it could go as high as the Secretary of Public Works. It could also implicate, I guess, you guys, congressmen here, congressman before you, or other congressmen in other districts. How high and how deep does this go, and who is the most responsible in that chain? Oh, let's not forget the auditors as well, right? Apart from the district engineers.
Yes. What Engineer Calalo told me was that the congressman has a part in selecting the contractors. The DPWH engineering office supposedly facilitates the rigging of the bid, quote unquote, and the bidders supposedly collude. And I heard there's also some system for how the losing bidders get compensated, and the winning bidder is picked supposedly by the congressman. So I just assumed office this year, and I don't tolerate that, so I called the PNP. But the answer to your question is that the one who appropriates the funds has a part in choosing the projects, all of which is on paper, is also given a hand in selecting the contractor, which is, of course, not on paper. And that is the congressman of the district.
Okay. So will you look into the projects of the previous administration, the previous congressman in your district?
Well, I want to focus on what we can base on real on-ground evidence, which is auditing the projects. So when we find that something that should be 50 meters is 4 meters, then of course it's questions on why it was accepted, who was benefiting from this, but that at least we can demand that the proper work be completed on these projects.
Well, Congressman, the other side to it is that the usual answer or response we get from congressmen is wala silang alam. We don't know. We just leave it to the DPWH to take care of the budgeting. We don't want to micromanage. How do we get to the point that we actually have the weight of evidence against a lawmaker?
Yes, that's a very good question, and that's why naaawa po ako kay DE and the other DPWH employees who are taking the flak for this, because yes, they are facilitating it, and there are laws that should be followed, and they should also be held to account, but that the supposedly district representatives in the first district of Batangas have been the ones who have had a bigger hand in the system, and that's also reflected in the fact that they also get a bigger percent, supposedly, of the projects, and it's just not documented. It's the DPWH engineers who are signing off that these projects are compliant, and yet the one who's really benefiting from it doesn't have its fingerprints on it. And that's why it's interesting that in this case there is an engineer who, if he turns state witness, can help uncover how this works. I think that if he does so, then perhaps others in DPWH can also have the courage to do so, because it's quite risky for someone, not only for their job, but also their personal security, to speak out, because of course there's possible retaliation by contractors, but also by the politicians who have benefited from this.
Has he said yes to you, to your offer of being state witness?
I believe that there's so much happening now that you would have to think about, and again, I sympathize for him, even if he was part of the system, because a lot more than just this happens. It just happened that hindi ko po tinanggap yung kanyang inalok, but there's a lot more where this is not being reported and not being caught, and hopefully Engineer Calalo can help fix the system.
I was looking at Instagram the other day, and I noticed that you have the support of a fellow young lawmakers in Congress. The young guns have, posted on their social media to throw their support for you. And you talked about, I remember, you talked about joining hands to reform the DPWH. Anong klaseng reforma ang nakikita mo dito, Congressman? What do you think? I mean, what should be done to be able to strengthen our institutions, finally, to resist all of this systemic corruption?
First of all, I would like to praise the administration for putting this at the top of the agenda, and PBBM SONA making this issue that can now be discussed more openly than before. And the Congress has also expressed that wants education to be at the top, and DPWH's budget a lower priority for the coming year. If that can be translated in the final budget that is proposed, where we can hopefully reduce the budget for flood control projects and reduce the cost of DPWH projects across the board for the upcoming year, that's actually the most important thing that Congress can do now. What has not yet been approved and bid out, compared to focusing on running after things that have already been done. And the more systemic reforms of DPWH are possibly many. Of course, This incident shows the value of a witness protection program for DPWH employees. There's the possibility also of greater transparency on the bidding process. But one thing that I am experiencing in my district is the quandary that supposedly the percentage that is for the congressman is already factored in to the costs of the projects. And kung hindi daw kukunin ng congressman ito, baka may iba pang kukuha. And because there is also no incentive for a district to have a bid that is below the ceiling price by a lot. Many of the DPWH bids end up being close to the budgets allocated, and there isn't that much savings. But if the savings for a project can be retained by the district instead of the current setup where it is reverted to the national treasury, then perhaps be an incentive and also positive points for a district that can show that it can implement DPWH projects at a lower cost.
Maybe you could have a standardized 3% slashed to the budget. No, just kidding.
Well,
Okay.
I would hope that they can just use the savings on more efficient procurement to fund classrooms and education.
Correct, correct. Well, bilang panghuli, no, an important question here. I want to go to the LGU side. They're complaining, many mayors are complaining that they don't have oversight over DPWH projects because these are not coursed through them. Walang permit. Pero dyan sa Batangas, is it the same thing? I mean, hindi involved dito ang LGU?
Definitely, that's something I agree with, giving LGUs more involvement on in DPWH projects. I also think that LGUs are arguably more efficient in implementing projects because when I compared the costs of a covered court, for example, by an LGU versus that of DPWH, the LGU is cheaper. And ang sinasabi daw ay dahil mas maraming dinadaanan pag DPWH project. But the example in my district is also that there was a particular road project that the LGU said should have been concrete, but was instead designed as asphalt. The LGU actually asked DPWH to change the design, but DPWH said, I was just recounting here what I heard, that may malaking tao daw na naglagay ng proyektong ito, and despite the request of the LGU to make the material of the road more appropriate for the flood-prone area, kept it as
Oo. Kasi syempre the LGUs would know better what is needed in their communities. So we hope we are able to sort those out in Congress and put together the appropriate laws. But it is a good start. Maraming salamat sa iyo, Leandro, for all of your revelations today. We hope this investigation goes far as to create real reforms in the infrastructure system. Maraming salamat. We have Batangas 1st District Representative Leandro Leviste joining us today.